The forest floor was a graveyard of ripped roots and churned earth. 8 years of wild simulated ginseng torn out in a single afternoon.
Every root was a contract. Every contract, a decade of patience.
The Korean importer had already cancelled. A decade-long partnership, severed overnight. The Department of Commerce issued a sites violation notice. A federal investigation was now open. The contract was worth $4 million per harvest, and it was now dead. And here was the author of it all, Anna Whitfield, HOA chair, posting smiling photos from her woodland beautification day. The caption read, "We cleaned up those ugly weeds." South Korea filed a formal diplomatic protest, an international incident over ginseng roots.
Every permit, every inspection, every receipt. I kept them all.
He calculated the damages, the lost contract, the federal fines, the diplomatic fallout, but his face gave away nothing. Justin Cullen didn't scream. He didn't rage. He simply walked back to his truck and began assembling the lawsuit that would bury Anna Whitfield. But the destruction didn't begin with one afternoon. It began with a letter from the Oakwood Estates HOA.
Mr. Cullen, your property is an eyesore. We expect compliance with neighborhood standards.
Those aren't weeds. They're a regulated agricultural crop. I have federal permits.
Justin had filed every CITES permit, every export license, every inspection report for 8 years.
I don't care about your little gardening project. The HOA bylaws require maintained landscaping.
Justin explained wild simulated ginseng takes a decade to mature and was worth millions. She called it rural folklore.
She never once looked it up, never asked what those red berries were.
The letters kept coming. Threats of fines, liens, legal action, and each time, Justin replied with the same federal permit numbers.
If you won't clean it, the HOA will do it for you. We have the authority.
She had said it, and now it was done. The weeds were gone, and so was 8 years of work. The demand letter was precise. You, Anna Whitfield, are liable for the destruction of a federally protected crop. Total damages, $6.2 million.
He wants $6 million for weeds? The man has lost his mind. This is harassment. I'll have the HOA's attorney squash this in a week.
Justin hired a litigation specialist. His office walls were lined with trade agreements and CITES case law.
She thinks this is a neighborhood squabble. She just irritated 2 governments.
The attorney reviewed the evidence and nodded. This is open and shut.
Mr. Cullen, if you think I'll pay a dime, you are mistaken. The HOA's insurance will handle your little garden.
Insurance doesn't cover intentional destruction. She'll learn that soon enough.
The lawsuit was filed in federal court. A copy of the complaint was on its way to Anna's doorstep. For Justin, there was no turning back. For Anna, the clock had started ticking. Within hours, the filing hit the local news. Federal CITES lawsuit seeks $6.2 million from HOA chair.
This can't be right. $6 million? It's extortion. They're not going to settle. He wants to ruin me.
The Republic of Korea confirms it has filed a formal protest regarding the destruction of a licensed export crop.
I don't care what it costs. Make this go away.
Justin walked past the cameras without a word. His silence was louder than any statement. She tried to call the HOA's attorney, but he had already reviewed the complaint and advised her to prepare for a long fight.
He said the insurance won't cover it. I could lose everything.
The consulate's statement was unequivocal. This act threatens a long-standing trade relationship. The story was everywhere now. Anna Whitfield was no longer the bully with a title. She was the defendant in a federal lawsuit. Anna hired a prominent defense attorney, someone who specialized in crushing nuisance lawsuits.
He's not even a real resident. His land is a mess. The board needs to protect this community.
But when she presented the board with her version, one member asked to see the actual court filings.
It's all lies. Insurance will handle it. We have bylaws to defend.
Justin's team had already obtained Anna's phone records, including a group text from the morning of the beautification day. Volunteers, meet at the forest edge, bring shovels. We're going to uproot every last weed. The message was time-stamped, and it matched the exact date of the destruction.
If the board sees this, they'll never back me up.
Within 48 hours, a copy of those texts was circulating among the HOA board. Anna's support evaporated. The board wasn't ready to go to war for a woman who'd ordered destruction in writing. 2 weeks later, the depositions began. Each volunteer was asked the same question: who told you to dig? Transcript: Anna said it was just weeds. She told us if we didn't clean it, the HOA would be fined. One volunteer, a retired teacher, broke down when shown photos of the actual ginseng roots. And then the social media post. The timestamp, the smiling faces, the caption: we cleaned up those ugly weeds. Every volunteer had seen it. Every one of them joined because Anna Whitfield made it sound like community service. Then the Korean importer gave his deposition via video link. He held up the cancelled contract. He stated this was a 15-year agreement. The American ginseng root is irreplaceable in our market.
Every word they say is another nail. She has no idea how deep this goes.
Anna was not in the room, but her expression after hearing the transcripts said everything. After 6 hours of depositions, the truth was airtight. Intentional destruction, provably directed. Justin's attorney didn't stop at the ginseng case. He uncovered a history. Anna Whitfield had weaponized the HOA against other homeowners for years. A complaint from a retired couple. She fined us for a flagpole and threatened a lien if we didn't pay. 3 more families came forward with similar stories. They'd all been silenced by her threats.
The HOA has a duty to indemnify its board members. We need to allocate funds for my legal defense.
Normally, such a motion would pass without debate. But this time, a proxy vote arrived from a shell company holding a significant interest.
This is where it begins. She won't see it coming.
The proxy voted against funding. The motion died.
Who authorized that? Someone just cost me my legal protection.
Anna scanned the room, but no one admitted it. The board was no longer hers. Justin had made his first quiet move, and Anna was starting to realize the ground was shifting beneath her. The next HOA meeting erupted within minutes. A board member, fed up with lawsuits, moved to remove the chair.
You can't do that. I've built this community. I've protected it from people like him.
Then, from the back of the room, Justin Cullen stood. He had been listening the entire time, a folder in his hand.
You want to know who voted against your legal fund? I did, through Greenwood Holdings. I own the parcel your community sign sits on.
He laid the deed on the table. The shell company name was clear, the parcel description exact.
If he owns it, he has a seat on the board. He can block anything. This is a lie. He's fabricating documents to destroy me.
The board secretary examined the deed and nodded. It was notarized, filed, and dated 3 years prior. The room went cold. Justin Cullen wasn't just a farmer. He was a major interest holder. The motion to remove Anna as chair was tabled, but the vote was postponed. She still held the gavel, but her grip was gone.
He's nothing but a criminal. You are letting a felon control this community.
My background check is on file. Federal CITES requires it. I have never been charged with anything.
This board reviewed his permits, his tax records, his export licenses. They were immaculate.
Shell companies. He's hiding assets. This is all a tax evasion scheme.
But Justin's team was already ahead. The amended complaint hit the court, adding fraud and interference with international trade. The Korean consulate demanded full restitution and issued a statement that there would be no diplomatic cover.
They're not going to let this go. I can't make this disappear with a check.
The HOA board voted to issue a formal statement supporting Justin's property rights and condemning the destruction.
She's finally starting to understand. But it's not nearly over.
The pressure was mounting from every direction. Anna was cornered, and the legal machinery was now fully in motion. At the next HOA board meeting, Justin's lawyer arrived with a thick binder. Inside was a map of Oakwood Estates with a single splash of red. The red represented 40% of the common land, all owned by Greenwood Holdings and 3 other shell companies. The binder's title, Consolidated Ownership Schedule, Oakwood Estates HOA Common Parcels, dated 7 years prior. The first purchase was recorded the same year Anna Whitfield assumed the chair. It was no coincidence.
How long have you been planning this?
Since the first letter you sent.
The board sat in stunned silence. For 7 years, Justin had been quietly acquiring the very ground they governed. With 40% ownership, he could block any vote, veto any bylaw, and dissolve any committee, including the Beautification Committee. From that moment, the HOA was no longer Anna Whitfield's domain. It was Justin Cullen's chessboard, and every move was his to make. The meeting adjourned in chaos. The chairwoman had been checkmated on her own board. Anna didn't go home after the meeting. She drove straight to Justin's cabin, trembling with rage and dread.
You bought the HOA the year I became chair. Was this whole thing a setup?
It was insurance. I knew someone like you would eventually try to take what's mine.
The first purchase agreement was dated 7 years earlier. He had been waiting for her to make a mistake.
Every acre I bought was another vote I could control. I needed you to hang yourself with your own rope.
He wanted me to destroy his crop. He wanted this lawsuit.
Her legs gave out. She collapsed into a chair, sobbing, but Justin didn't move. He simply watched, the same cold stare he'd worn since the first letter. Anna Whitfield had finally understood. She wasn't fighting a farmer. She was fighting a man who had already won. From the beginning, Justin Cullen had been playing a game she didn't even know existed. The HOA board called an emergency session. By unanimous vote, they agreed to fully cooperate with Justin's federal suit.
You are handing him everything. This community will regret this.
The motion also authorized the board to seek recovery of any HOA funds that had been misused during her tenure.
They're going to bleed me dry before the trial even starts.
Within hours, Anna was on the phone with her attorney. The advice was not what she hoped. Her lawyer's message was blunt. The evidence is overwhelming. Settle now, or risk a judgment that could take everything.
Settle? He'll never agree to less than millions. But if I don't...
She sat at her dining table, the lawsuit papers spread before her, and for the first time the word surrender entered her mind. Her attorney reached out to Justin's legal team that evening. A settlement conference was proposed. Justin received the offer, but gave no immediate answer. He simply stared at the number and put the paper aside. The settlement conference took place in a blank room. Anna's attorney slid a single-page offer across the table. The terms: Anna Whitfield offers $1 million and a written public apology. In exchange, all claims are dismissed.
No, I require the full judgment. $6.2 million, plus interest, plus legal costs. She can keep the apology.
His attorney relayed the counteroffer. Anna received the news in her living room, still in her clothes from the day before.
He'd rather bankrupt me than take a deal.
Her credit card statement arrived the next day, showing a pending legal fee hold of over $200,000. There was no way back.
Then, I'll spend every dime and fight him. If he wants my house, he'll have to take it in court.
Justin heard her response through his attorney, and for the first time in weeks, the corner of his mouth twitched. The settlement was officially rejected. The trial was now inevitable. Justin Cullen had chosen the long war. The trial opened on a cold morning. The courtroom was packed with reporters. diplomats and neighbors who'd come to watch the fall. Justin's attorney began with a single ginseng root. Held high, he told the jury it was a federal crime to destroy this plant. Anna's lawyer argued ignorance. A community volunteer event gone wrong. But then the texts were shown. Exhibit A, the group message. Meet at the forest edge. Bring shovels. We're uprooting every last weed. Signed by Anna Whitfield. Then the Facebook post. Smiling faces, shovels, and the caption. We cleaned up those ugly weeds. The jury sat in silence. The Korean consular representative took the stand. He stated, "The Republic of Korea views this as an act of economic sabotage."
They're talking about me like a criminal. These are weeds. Just weeds.
The cancelled contract was entered, the red stamp stark. Then the CITES violation notice. Guilt was no longer in question.
The more she fights, the more she buries herself.
By day's end, even Anna's own attorney looked pale. The trial was no longer a contest. It was a lesson in consequences. Anna Whitfield was called to the stand. Her walk across the courtroom was slower than it had been 7 years ago, when she first claimed power.
It was just a community cleanup. I never intended to damage anything valuable. I thought it was ordinary underbrush.
Then Justin's attorney stood for cross-examination. He held up a printed screenshot of the group text, already marked Exhibit B. Exhibit B. Meet at the forest edge. Bring shovels. We're uprooting every last weed.
I didn't mean literal weeds. I thought they were dandelions. It was a mistake.
Her voice cracked. The arrogance that had defined her for years evaporated in front of the entire court.
There it is. The real woman behind the gavel.
She tried to recover, but the evidence was relentless. By the time she stepped down, every juror avoided her eyes. The judge's expression remained stone. Even a plea for mercy would have fallen on deaf ears. Anna returned to her seat, her defense in ruins. The only sound was the scratching of the stenographer's pen. Justin's attorney demanded the full $6.2 million, plus punitive damages. He branded it economic sabotage. Anna's lawyer pleaded for leniency, citing her community service. The words evaporated in the silent courtroom. The judge retired to deliberate. The courtroom emptied, leaving only the smell of old wood and anxiety. Anna hurried into the hallway and saw Justin by the exit doors, his back already turning.
Justin, wait. There must be a number. I can sell everything. Please.
He kept walking. Not a pause, not a glance. The click of his boots was her only answer.
There was always a number. She just can't pay it.
Anna's hand dropped to her side. She had never felt smaller. Outside, the press shouted her name. Cameras flashed, but she didn't come out. She sat on a bench, head in her hands, while the sun set over the courthouse steps. 2 days later, the courtroom was packed tighter than before. Every camera in the state seemed trained on the bench. The judge read slowly. This court finds Anna Whitfield liable for treble damages under RICO, totaling $6.2 million.
Treble damages. That's 3 times the crop. RICO. They called me a racketeer.
So it ends where it began. With her.
The judge added punitive damages and full legal costs. The final payment would exceed $6.8 million.
Never. I'll never have that kind of money. He took everything.
Now the real work begins.
Anna's hands shook against the table. The gavel of her own HOA was nothing compared to this. Justin rose, nodded once to his attorney, and walked out. The reporters still couldn't get a word from him. For Anna Whitfield, the war was over. For Justin Cullen, it had just started. Justin's attorney filed for immediate seizure of assets, starting with the house and the SUV parked in the driveway. Anna Whitfield opened her door to find a thick envelope taped to the handle. Her name was printed in red.
Not the house. It's all I had left.
Through his HOA proxies, Justin ensured no delays, no appeals, no grace. The property was to be vacated in 48 hours. The movers came at dawn. Furniture, boxes, and the last remnants of her authority were carried into the cold. Inside, Anna sat on the stairs, head in her hands, surrounded by the remains of a life she'd built on someone else's land. The eviction notice was taped over the for sale sign. The words foreclosed were stamped in black across the bottom. The house at 47 Oakwood was no longer a home. It was an asset, and its new owner stood on the lawn.
It's mine now, but she hasn't seen the rental agreement yet.
Anna Whitfield was homeless, but the final humiliation was still being drafted in Justin Cullen's cabin. Justin Cullen dropped his own form of grace on the welcome mat of her cousin's house, a 6-page rental agreement.
The house is available. Rent is due on the 1st. Market rate.
On the landlord line, the signature was already dry. Justin Cullen.
He's making me a tenant in my own home. This is worse than prison. And if I don't?
Try the shelter list, or the back seat of a car.
She snatched the keys. Her hand trembled, but her eyes stayed fixed on his. On the kitchen counter, a handwritten note was already taped. Rent due on the 1st, Justin. She sat on the stairs of the house she had lost, holding the keys and the lease, a landlord she couldn't escape. The sign outside now read sold, for rent by owner. And that owner was Justin Cullen. The HOA board convened one last time. New bylaws were distributed, already signed by the majority landowner. Every measure passed unanimously. Renters could no longer serve, and the beautification committee was dissolved.
He planned this, too. There's no seat left for me.
With his 40% ownership, Justin's proxy votes controlled every decision. The board was now a formality. The beautification committee was gone. Its remaining funds were reallocated to forest conservation. The Korean consulate's final notice. We acknowledge the court's judgment and withdraw our protest, effective immediately. A small sign was planted at the edge of the Ginseng acres. Planted in patience, harvested in justice. From above, the land was whole again. A forest, a neighborhood, and one man who owned the invisible deed.
It took 7 years, but the roots are deep now.
In the back row, Anna Whitfield sat as a tenant, a former chair invisible to the new regime. He knelt where the soil had been churned and pressed a single ginseng seed into the earth. The seed was a new hybrid, sourced from a Korean partner who trusted his reputation. Beside him, a fresh export contract lay in a waterproof folder, signed that morning. In the same patch, a survivor from the destruction had already put out a new shoot.
She gave me a clean slate. Better soil this cycle, deeper roots.
He stood and walked out of the understory. The 10-year clock had reset with better odds.
It's not revenge anymore. It's just farming.
The consulate lifted its protest. His new buyer wired a deposit for the first harvest from the hill. The ginseng acres were a mosaic of new growth and ancient oaks. Justin walked the familiar path back to the cabin. The next harvest would write its own chapter. The evening was warm, and the forest had begun to heal. Justin carried a lantern to the stump he had never removed. He sat among the new plantings, where the soil had been turned and reseeded. A single ginseng shoot, the first from the new cycle, stood erect in the failing light. He looked at it without expression. The same cold stare that had unsettled the boardroom. In ginseng, as in justice, the roots run deep, and the harvest comes to those who wait. The sun sank behind the oaks, and the woods went quiet. From above, the property was a single unbroken canopy, the houses mere clearings in the green. Justin's lantern moved along the path, a tiny point of light returning to the cabin. Nothing else moved. The land had waited 7 years before. It would wait again.